What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Aggie Nation Podcast. I'm Alex Miller from the Eagle, joined always by Travis Brown. Travis, it's almost the end of February, which means you particularly have almost made it through the gauntlet of basketball and baseball.
Basketball. Yeah,
Excuse me.
It's we always think that football is the roughest, the busiest time of year, but it's really like right now.
Yeah,
when there's basketball and baseball, and then we'll have spring football coming up here soon, and softballs go. It's really busy around these parts this time of year. It's gonna get a little bit worse before it gets better, but it'll get better, and I think there's some good things to look forward to on the Diamonds if you're an A&M fan.
Yeah. On the bright side for A&M fans, Diamond Sports looking good. We'll get to some of the rougher patches of where A&M hoops stands here in a bit, though. But let's focus on baseball because we haven't really gotten to talk a lot about it. Hey, A&M baseball off to an 8-0 start. Look, they're first in the nation in team ERA. They're fourth in the country in team batting average. Those figures lead the SEC. But their RPI is only 20 right now because they haven't really played a very strong schedule to this point. Strength of schedule non-conference is 97. Lamar is A&M's best win. They got that last night, 7-inning run rule. They're the only team in the top 100 RPI that A&M has played.
Yeah, no RPI. It's way too early in for the season for the equation to actually mean anything. So I wouldn't even be looking at RPI yet. I usually actually don't even look at RPI until probably about the first or second week in the conference slate because so many teams play nobody early in the year, and it's just hard. There's not enough data in the equation for it to actually spit out anything meaningful. So, I mean, sure, at 8-0, they're one of the better teams in the country, but yeah, it's hard to really get much out of RPI this early.
Well, hey, we might be learning something about where this A&M baseball team stands over the next week, though, because they're going to go play in Arlington a 3-game stretch and then a road game on a Tuesday night against Texas, which Texas is pretty good right now, but, good or bad, that game is always close because it's a rivalry game. So here's what I want to ask you, Travis. What do we know about this A&M baseball team right now, and what are you wanting to know more of?
I think that we know that they are a good hitting team, and they're a deep hitting team. There's that 1 through 4 batting order spots in A&M with Gavin Grahovic, the freshman, Jace Laviolette batting 2-hole, Braden Montgomery, the transfer from Stanford, at 3, and Hayden Schott from Columbia at 4. They have proven to be absolutely formidable. I mean, Jace Laviolette second in the country in home runs with 6. Braden Montgomery is right behind him at 10th in the conference with 3 home runs. Gavin Grahovic is batting .727 with runners in scoring position at the leadoff spot, being able to turn that lineup over. Your 9-hole hitter, Ali Camarillo, for a while had the best batting average on the team and was doing. He's kind of hit a little bit of a slump the last couple of games. Jace Laviolette is 6th in the nation in RBIs with 18. Braden Montgomery 6th in the conference with 12 RBIs. I mean, that top of the lineup is just something to. Something to watch. I mean, even going back to the home run against Lamar last night, Jace Laviolette hits one at 108 miles per hour exit velocity and 52 degrees launch angle. And I looked that up on, I know the wood bats in the MLB, there's metal bats in college baseball, but the most robust data is from the major leagues. And I looked up, you can go on their StatCast website and punch in at 108 miles per hour and a 52 degree launch angle. What does the hit chart look like for that? There has never been a hit since 2015 when they used this technology. There's never been a hit at 108 miles per hour and 52 degrees let alone a home run. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, it would probably have to be a home run for it to fall into hit, because it's going to scrape the top of some of these retractable roof stadiums at 52 degrees and 108 miles per hour. It was just wacky, the amount of strength that he has. So yes, they can hit the ball. And they have depth, because Jim Schlossnagle, because of some of these blowouts, has been able to put in some of their bench guys, some of their platoon guys, and those guys can hit the ball too. When you look at Caden Kent and Ryan Targach are guys who are kind of trading off. Blake Binderup and Ted Burton at first base are guys that are kind of trading off some at-bats. You have Jackson Appel, Max Coffer, and Hank Bard. Hank Bard had a huge home run the other day.
Yeah, went into Grand Slam.
And he had a Grand Slam. Jackson Appel had a home run against Lamar.
It was 445 feet. I mean, that's got to be on the train tracks.
Right. That's one of the farthest this year. And Max Coffer, while he never has had the best batting average here, has one of the best on-base percentages for A&M, and he gets on base and creates runs that way. So, you look at the last two seasons, A&M had some really good hitters, but they didn't have that depth to where if somebody got hurt or if somebody hit a little bit of a slump, they pretty much had a plug-and-play to throw in there, or a guy at least that they had some confidence in that could continue to carry the offense. This year, there's guys fighting for at bats, especially kind of at the middle to bottom of the order, and that kind of competition just breeds success. Pitching is still the biggest question mark, but this is a pitching staff that has thrown, that is averaging 2.45 walks per 9 innings through 8 games. I mean, they set like a walk record for the program last year, just absolutely obliterated it. You have a little bit better pitching numbers over there that you can kind of go through. But while they haven't necessarily faced the strongest of competition yet, the thing that I was looking for is, can they throw strikes? Because the ability to throw strikes, not allow free bases in the form of hit batters, walks, wild pitches, that they've kept those to a minimum. And I think through even the first weekend, they only had 5 or 6 walks to say. So they're throwing strikes. Now, yeah, are they probably going to allow some more hits, some more runs as the competition gets a little bit stiffer? Sure, but if you give up a home run with no one on, it's 1 run. If you've walked 2 batters, and all of a sudden that's a 3-run home run, that's what gets you. It's not home runs, it's not hits that gets you as pitching in the SEC. It's when you give up home runs and hits after you've given up walks, hit batters, things like that turn 1 run into 2 or 3.
Which we saw a lot of crooked numbers go up against A&M last year, especially when they got into conference play. I mean, there were some high-scoring games throughout that conference stretch last year.
Yeah, there was, and there's been some high-scoring games for A&M this year in just the numbers that they've put up and the amount of run rules they've had so far.
What have you seen particularly from Ryan Prager? Because he was a guy that we wanted to know what it was going to be like when he got back into the starting role. And through 2 starts, I mean, they left him. I mean, he almost went 7 innings last week, got up into the 80s in his pitch count.
Yeah, he missed all of last season with Tommy John. I did a little feature on him when they were at the regional last year in Stanford because of NCAA rules. Since he's injured and he's out for the season, there wasn't a spot on the plane for him, so he actually collected his own Southwest points or American points, whatever that was, and got himself out to the regional to be able to watch from the stands, which is a unique experience to kind of have to be a fan and that, not even be able to really be in the dugout or anything like that. But he's come back strong. He's a really mentally tough dude. He's a strike thrower. He hits his spots well, and he hasn't. The moment hasn't been too big for him. I know the moment has been McNeese and Wagner so far, but man, that opening Friday night, it was a absolutely packed crowd, electric environment. The first time he's been on a game mound like that in, I think he said it was like over 600 days, and he just settled in and threw strikes and has only allowed 7 hits in those 2 starts. He was only 1 hit against McNeese in 5 innings, and he has 19 strikeouts through that. It looks like when you go back to that kind of Rob Childress era where you didn't know exactly how necessarily A&M was going to hit every game, but you knew that they were going to have starting pitching. He reminds me of one of those guys when you go back to the Brigham, not the Brigham Youngs, the
Brigham Hills.
Brigham Hills. I always get that. The Brigham Hills. Asa Lacy was a case of his own. John Doxakis guys. I mean, he kind of fits that real true starter mold, and I think for every indication he's going to be the Friday night guy so far this season.
Yeah, it looks like Shane Sadeo's kind of emerged as a guy that could fit into that kind of third guy. They started Tanner Jones, but they knew he was going to be kind of an opener last week on that Sunday. And then Chris Cortez has had pretty nice outings in the 2 midweek games, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and that's that depth at starting pitching is something that they haven't had in a long time. It was interesting to see them roll out the first weekend with 3 lefties. It was Prager and then Lampkin and then Sadeo. They moved Tanner Jones, the transfer from Jacksonville State, in there. I think they really want him to be a weekend rotation guy. He had a lat cramp is what he called it a couple of weeks before the season started, and they kind of eased him into the season. He only pitched 2 innings in that game just to kind of ease him back in. But I think once SEC plays gets here, if he's still throwing strikes, he's probably the guy that they want in there. And typically Jim Schlossnagels like to work lefty, righty, lefty, or righty, lefty, righty. So you might necessarily see him move into that second role. Justin Lampkin has been pretty good. Shane Sadeo has been really good. I think Jim Schlossnagel likes him in that kind of long relief role too when they can. Chris Cortez has thrown more strikes. He's the hardest throwing arm they have on that staff. He can touch 98 with his fastball, but he has struggled throwing strikes consistently and also hitting his spots, not leaving things out over the middle of the plate, because at this level 98 and 94 is not that much difference if you're throwing it right over the middle of the plate and the guy is sitting fastball. So he has to hit his spots with those. He's done that for the most part. He got into a little bit of trouble against Lamar, started an inning out with 2 walks, and they ended up scoring on that. But Schlossnagel said the difference between Cortez this year and last year is last year's Cortez would have gotten into a little bit of that rut and couldn't have got himself out. And he said he liked how he kind of got himself out. So Cortez is a little bit of a I'm still waiting to get a little bit more data on because of the kind of up and down he had last year. And honestly, that Tuesday spot might be perfect for him for some of the season, because you continue to roll through the Tuesdays, you get a lot of reps. If something happens in the starting rotation, you're a natural fit to slot into there. And then once you get into postseason play, whether it be the SEC tournament, a regional, if you're not blowing through a regional, or even you want to look all the way down the line to Omaha, the teams with the most starting pitching win, the deepest starting pitching win. A&M swung their way to the College World Series 2 years ago, but they didn't have enough pitching to get all the way to that final. I think that this is a team that has the pitching depth. One of the biggest question marks so far, too, is the fact that what do they really have in the bullpen? And it's not a question mark because there could be a lack there. It's just that the offense has been so good and the starting pitching has been so good that we haven't seen a lot of the bullpen yet.
Yeah, and I mean, Evan Aschenbeck has come in a few times, and he's been pretty solid. I think everyone was expecting that he would pick up where he left off last year, had a really good breakout season a year ago. But yeah, that was going to be my next question to you, Travis, is there's been limited innings for these relief guys and really not many high pressure situations. I mean, probably the one was the game they won 2-0 against Wagner this weekend? Yeah,
and they ran Aschenbeck out there for 4 innings. There's 3 criteria for a save. It's 3 or more innings that you're out there. If the winning run is either on the on-deck circle or on or it's within 3 runs, in the last inning, and he qualified all 3 of those for that save situation. I messed up. I said that was their first save opportunity. They actually had one in the McNeese series too on that Saturday, but he handled that situation well, and it's not going to be a traditional back into the bullpen in some of those situations, because if a starter can get to the 7th inning and Evan Oschenbeck's available, Jim Schlosnagel's probably going to ride him the last 3 innings and let him close out the game with how efficient he has been over the last season and the start of this one. But then you have guys like Badniev and Josh Stewart and Peary, the Arizona State transfer, who will kind of make up that back end of the bullpen as well. It was in the game against Lamar, I believe, one of the games this week, they kind of all start to run together. The opponents did have a bases loaded situation, runners in scoring, and they ran Badmiev out there to get a batter, and then ran Peary out there to get a couple batters to kind of seemingly simulate a 9th inning and 8th inning. He said that Jim Schlosnagel said, nothing is certain in these games, and he wanted to make sure that they got out of that situation. But it certainly didn't hurt to throw some of those guys that might be some of the back end of the bullpen guys out there to get some of those pressure innings early in the season and not have to roll into either this weekend or then SEC play, your bullpen not really have had any high pressure situations.
Well, my last thing on baseball, I had to follow Hayden Schott on Twitter last night because, okay, look, if y'all haven't seen Hayden Schott's Twitter after games, and I'm guessing he's probably going to only do this after wins, but his satirical critiques and feedback is just hilarious.
I was really big on, after Jackson Appel's home run, the Appel Bottom Jeans is going for the nickname. That's been the great. I mean, he's such a great addition to the team. You got to have a guy on the team that is, or guys on the team that are funny and glue guys and clubhouse guys, whatever you want to call them, that lighten the mood. I mean, 2 years ago that was Nathan Detmer and Micah Dallas, who were with the Pringles cans and doing all the stuff in the dugout that kind of added some flair to the monotony that is the baseball season at times. Last year when things got rough, they still had Nathan Detmer, but he lost his partner in crime, and I think that they kind of were missing that guy that kind of lightened the mood. They had it was very senior heavy and upperclassmen heavy, and guys that were looking at the draft, and so there was a lot of guys who were pushing to try to get that their draft stock up, and I just don't think they had that guy who was just like, let's shake things up, let's make it loose. And he seems to not only be that guy, but a guy who can hit. I think until last night, he was carrying a 7-game hit streak into the game last night. He got on via walk, I believe, but didn't get a hit, so his hit streak ended. But he's knocked the cover off the ball as well in that 4 spot, and been a good guy in the outfield, and just been a glue guy.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk a little A&M men's hoops real quick before we go. Look, A&M's got to win if they want to make the NCAA tournament. They've really backed themselves into a corner. Before we got on, I looked it up. They've dropped to 57 in the net rankings. They're the first team out in Joe Lunardi's bracketology. Jerry Palm for CBS, he doesn't even have them first 4 out, next 4 out, any of that. He's like, they're not even mentioned. So, A&M, they've got winnable games, but it's a matter of, can they put it together and string together some momentum here these last 2 weeks of the season? Yeah,
A&M, the one I like to look at is bracketmatrix.com, because they compile like 120 or 102 different brackets and kind of give them an average score to put them online. This is the first time this season that A&M has just completely fallen on to other at-larges, because they're not on enough of mock bracketology brackets right now, and most of them have them as an 11 seed. So they got to win games, and that's starting tonight against South Carolina is going to be a big game, and then I think the next they got to probably win at Georgia, and the other big game is at Ole Miss to close out the year. That'll be another quad one. The interesting part about, and we've talked about this a lot, but just to recap, A&M has, and I haven't even looked today because it kind of fluctuates depending on teams and how they're ranked in the net. But A&M has either 5 or 6 quad 1 wins, but they also have 5 quadrant 3 losses. And so, that what that says is A&M is a team, when they're playing at their best, they can make it to the Elite Eight if they made it to the NCAA tournament. But when they're playing kind of like they have been lately, they could get beat by a 16 seed or not even make the tournament in that. So right now they are 6-6 in quadrant 1, 2-4 in quadrant 3. That Florida game and the Ole Miss game, I believe, is the one that's kind of fluctuating between quad 1 and quad 2 as those move around.
Yeah, I was looking it up. A&M can definitely get some help. They need Memphis and LSU to just keep winning and try and get those losses to become quad 2 and not stay quad 3. They also need Arkansas to stay above the 136 line in the net. I think they're at 127, and keep A&M's road loss right now against Arkansas is considered a quad 2, but Arkansas, right. They got to play Kentucky, and they got to play Alabama, and they just lost to Vanderbilt.
Right. The ones that are kind of fluctuating right now, Ohio State is at 66. That was an away win, so 75 is the cutoff on away.
They won on a buzzer beater the other night against Michigan State.
Right. So that helps A&M out. You have SMU at 43. That was an away, so that one's solidly locked in right now. And then the Florida is there. They moved up to 28. That was a home game, and 30 is the cutoff for quad 1, quad 2. So the more that Florida wins, that helps A&M as well. And then that Memphis, they're at 79, and the cutoff for home, there is 76. So that moves into quadrant 2. That kind of helps things out a little bit and makes it look a little bit more appealing. But yeah, I mean they've got to. The fact of the matter is they have to win, and it's not. I mean, I know it's the cliche to talk about the players saying you have to focus on each possession, each game, but it is kind of down to that right now, because we asked Buzz Williams yesterday a little bit about the way that their offense is running, and it certainly looks like the offense that they're calling is just get the ball to Wade Taylor, get the ball to Tyrese Radford, and then ISO, and just try to let them dribble penetrate. And Buzz Williams said, yeah, but if you look at it, no one else on the team really is finishing around the rim, and that's where they need a team that doesn't shoot well. They've got to finish around the rim, and they've got to get fouled at the rim and make their free throws. The one that stood out to me is that I looked at CBB Analytics, and Henry Coleman is second on the team in field goal attempts at the rim, behind Tyrese Radford. It was I think he has about 104 attempts this season. He only has 13 in the last 5 games at the rim.
Yeah.
And then you have a guy like Anderson Garcia, who, don't get me wrong, he's not known for his scoring, but when you have to find a situation where someone else needs to produce to open things up for Wade Taylor and Tyrese Radford, he only has 7 attempts at the rim in the last 7 games. And so Solomon Washington, I believe, had 13, but he has to hit it a little bit. They have to find some other people to be able to get some shots at the rim and make that, because they're probably not going to win a game off of 3-pointers. Nope. And they're not going to win a game if the only thing that they have is Tyrese Radford and Wade Taylor trying to dribble penetrate and get things going off the dribble penetration, because that's exactly how they've lost the last 4 games. You look at Arkansas, yes, but mostly Alabama and Tennessee. They pressured Wade Taylor and Tyrese Radford really high above the 3-point line and made them have to try to dribble penetrate almost from half court all the way in, and a lot of times they were getting stopped at the free throw line. And so they need to find some other offensive options to be able to score, because it doesn't matter. You can run whatever play that you want and get the ball to Henry Coleman down low, but if he's not making that shot or getting to the free throw line and making the free throws, you might be better off trying to get the ball to Tyrese Radford and have him. It's just, it's kind of a darned if you do, darned if you don't situation. They just have to get more guys who are producing, and they have to not let what's happening on the offensive floor dictate their defense, because when they started struggling lately on offense, it seems like their energy on defense has let up as well. It's going to be a good test tonight, but I think that's going to be the keys moving forward, is taking a little bit of pressure off of Wade Taylor and Tyrese Radford and some of these other guys picking that up as well.
Well, for whatever reason, A&M plays well at home against good teams, and they're going to have a ranked team coming in tonight. Maybe a little home remedy is just what the doctor ordered.
Sure.
But, all right. Hey, that's going to do it for us. Be sure to check theeagle.com to follow all of Travis's coverage of the A&M men's hoops and A&M baseball. He'll be up in Arlington this weekend covering the Aggies as they face Arizona State and USC. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode of the Aggie Nation Podcast. We'll be back soon.